Abdul was an obstinate and modern-minded young man. He decided to build a new concrete house on his ancestral land in the village. The village elders warned him repeatedly, specifically advising him not to cut down the ancient banyan tree behind the courtyard. The tree was enormous, centuries old, and its branches covered a vast area of the sky. The villagers believed that a very powerful, malicious jinn named Kedar resided in that tree. For generations, the locals had respected the jinn and never interfered with its shade. But Abdul was unwilling to believe in superstitions. He used his influence and money to arrange for the banyan tree to be cut down. When the saw first struck the trunk of that old tree, the villagers closed their eyes in fear. Abdul instructed the workers, "Don't pay attention to these silly talks. Finish cutting the tree before the day ends." Before evening, the massive banyan tree crashed to the ground. Abdul smiled in triumph, but he did not realize the terrible mistake he had made. The banyan tree was Kedar's home, its sanctuary for 1,000 years. By destroying that dwelling, Abdul had unleashed the jinn and fueled its intense desire for revenge. The conflict began on the very first night. Abdul was sleeping alone in the newly built house. In the middle of the night, he woke up to a fierce, angry whisper. The voice was so close, it felt as if someone was speaking from inside his skull. "You have destroyed my home. You will be punished. I will take away you every night's sleep, you every breath." There was no one outside. Abdul realized the sound wasn't human. The next morning, he saw deep, non-human claw marks on the new walls. He initially thought it was the work of some wild animal, but the true horror escalated that night. His window glass shattered into pieces, yet there was no sign of a stone or object thrown from outside. His bedsheet was torn to shreds. Terrified, Abdul clutched an old religious amulet his father had given him. The amulet saved him that night, but the jinn's anger did not subside. Over the next few days, Kedar subjected Abdul to the extreme limits of psychological torture. Wherever Abdul went, a black shadow followed him. He looked in the mirror. He saw a swirling cloud of black smoke standing behind him. The jinn preyed on his mental weakness. Whenever Abdul trembled with fear, the jinn would burst into a hideous laughter that echoed 100 times louder in his ears. Abdul understood he had provoked a formidable enemy. He realized his mistake, but it was too late. The jinn now wanted more than just to scare him. It craved blood. Abdul tried to flee the village. As he packed his bags, he opened the door and saw hundreds of dead birds lying in his courtyard. Standing among them was Kedar, no longer a shadow, but a massive man-like black figure whose skin looked like tree bark and whose eyes were two leaping flames of fire. He could not run as the malevolent energy had made the airs heavy. That movement became almost impossible. Frightened, Abdul rushed back inside. He decided as a final resort to secure himself. He locked his bedroom door from the inside with 3 heavy chains and 3 padlocks. He also nailed wooden planks tightly across the only window. Then he dragged a heavy bookshelf and wedged it against the door. The room was now an impenetrable fortress. Abdul believed that if he was locked inside, the jinn could not take him. It was around 2 in the morning. A strong storm had hit outside. The sound of the wind and the roar of the thunder made the silence inside the room even more terrifying. Abdul sat in the middle of the room in front of an ill lamp. He held the old amulet in his hand. He was exhausted and scared, but ready to fight until the very end. Suddenly, the old mirror in the corner of the room flashed. Abdul looked up and saw that the old rafters of the ceiling were melting away through the mirror like molten wax. The ceiling beams rapidly disappeared, and through the gap appeared the dark night sky. But it wasn't the sky. It was Kedar's own world, empty and dark. Abdul tried to scream, but his throat was frozen. He felt that the wall behind him, the one the bookshelf was pressed against, had become ice cold and damp. The lamp's flame flickered and died. Pitch darkness. Abdul felt utterly helpless. Then Abdul heard a sound right behind him, the one the heavily locked and wedged door was. The sound of someone sharply scratching the wood. "Abdul," the harsh voice whispered, "you destroyed my home. My punishment will show you how your home is destroyed." Before Abdul could turn around, the wooden planks of the wall behind him miraculously burst into pieces and vanished. The locks, chains, and the bookshelf remained intact, but a section of the wall behind it simply disappeared. Through that void in the wall, Abdul saw Kedar standing there. even larger now, its shape a horrific mix of tree roots and raw flesh. The jinn stretched out its long, charcoal black hand. In an instant, it snatched Abdal up and pulled him through the void in the wall. As Abdal disappeared, he understood for the last time that he was not safe even inside his kicked room. To the jinn, no man-made lock, chain, or wall was an obstacle. The next morning, the neighbors came looking for Abdal and found the main door firmly locked from the inside. Panicked, they broke the door down with an axe. In the middle of the room lay only Abdal's footprints and a blood-stained amulet. The entire room was covered in blood, and written on all four walls in blood was only one word: vengeance. The most gruesome sight, however, was this on the inside of the main door. The door they had just broken open, which was secured with chains and the heavy bookshelf. Abdal's head was nailed to the wood. The jinn had taken him outside, horribly murdered him, and then placed his remains inside the room locked from the inside, to showcase its terrifying power to all of humanity. The silence inside that room, staring out from Abdal's lifeless eyes, seemed to scream Qaidari's free.